In 2 weeks' time, we'll be looking if we've got a red arrow, we've got a green arrow, who's scored, who's got the assist, whether it should be given. And I might have already have played my first chip of the entire season in game week 1. That is right, the new FPL and Premier League season is fast approaching. So in today's video, I'm going to take you through my updated draft and what chip I plan on playing in the first couple of weeks. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, 2,000 likes is the aim. Subscribe if you are new around here as well. And we are really approaching the important points of the season. Now, I am aware I've done a couple of draft videos already, but over the past week, I've spoken to some top managers and I've done some real deep diving into the early bench boost, which is what we're going to focus my current draft on at the moment. And I think there's a very good chance that I either bench boost in game week 1, which is the most likely, or potentially delay it 1 week into game week 2. So after this video, there then will be no more draft videos until all of the preseason friendlies are over next weekend. And then in the final week before the season, once we've got all that information, who is ready for the start of the season, are players back from the World Cup, are signings going to go through that are going to impact our teams, all of this will hopefully be decided in that final week before game week 1 starts. And I'll be able to build my game week 1 draft in a little bit more detail, because at the moment, we don't even know if Erling Haaland is back in training yet and when he's going to return and if he's actually going to be ready for the start of the season. So I've been building Haaland drafts for 3 weeks. I might have to tear that up completely. I don't expect that to be the case though. Before we dive in, if you are not in my league code already, the code is A6FGYM. Please make sure you go and do so. I have had 5 top 10k finishes in the last 6 seasons, which on Premier Fantasy Tools ranked me as the 3rd highest out of everyone in the world playing FPL over the last 6 seasons. And hopefully last year I didn't finish in the top 10k. I've looked at what I did wrong and I'm going to try and get back into it for 6 in 7 seasons. So if that sounds interesting or you're enjoying the content, please do smash the like and subscribe if you are not already. There are daily videos all throughout the season. Looking at the draft, so in goal, I'm going with Kinski and Verbruggen. So at the moment, I am building a bench boost 1 draft. The real reason for that in my mind is I don't want to save it to play after the first wildcard. I don't want to have to worry about picking defenders who are good in specific weeks. I don't want to think about, okay, that 5 million midfielder or that 4.5 million defender play Arsenal in the week I want to bench boost, so I can't go with them even though I think they are the best option at that price. I want to be able to build a draft that I think is robust, that will allow me, unfortunately, enough is enough to roll as many transfers, because as much as there were times last year that I wasn't aggressive enough, maybe early on in the season when I started badly, and particularly late on in the season getting to game week 38 with 4 free transfers, I shouldn't have done either of those things. In the middle of the season, that bulk in the season between your first wildcard and your second wildcard, being able to roll transfers is a really great place to be in. So I don't want to have to worry about when I'm going to play the bench boost or what fixtures my players have in the week I want to play it. And for the sake of what might be 2 or 3 points that I might nail a bench boost in game week 15, 16 or 17, I don't think that is worth the sacrifice of 1 or 2 transfers when I can play it in game week 1 or game week 2. Now, there are a few things that might impact that decision. A 4 million goalkeeper would improve the chances of me playing it quite drastically. But as we said in the bargains video yesterday, the cheap players video, there are no 4 million goalkeepers at the moment. Other options are some of those 6 million midfielders. Do I trust them enough? Because I've had to load up a little bit more on them to make sure I've got enough money on my bench. But I currently plan on bench boosting in game week 1. And this draft has 0.5 million in the bank where I could upgrade a couple of positions if I wanted to. We always used to say go into the season with 0.5 million in the bank, and we don't ever seem to do it anymore. But it is a nice thing if you can. Into my defense, I'm going with Maguire, Vardio, Calafiori, Mremovic, and O'Shea. All good picks long term, particularly the 4 starting ones, not so much O'Shea, but he has a good fixture in game week 1 to be part of that bench boost along with Mremovic. The 3 technically starting would be Harry Maguire, Vardio and Calafiori. I have 0.5 million in the bank. That would get me from Vardio to a 6 million defender. I am keeping my eye on when I think O'Reilly will be back in training for Manchester City, as I love him as a differential for the start of the season, but he is 6.5. We don't know when he's definitely going to be back, and they have 8 Nori who can play in that position. Vardio feels very nailed with some nice opening fixtures. 5.5 million, and he's been spoken about pretty well and is already playing 90 minutes a lot in preseason. So I'm pretty happy with that. The other thing to mention on top of the early bench boost is I'm planning a game week 6 wildcard, which is that big international break. An international break which effectively lasts for 3 weeks, 2 weekends without any Premier League football, 3 weeks in total, which is a perfect opportunity to play the first wildcard. I don't want to be forced to play it in either game week 2 or game week 3 or maybe even game week 4. These feel too early and too risky for me. So I do plan on saving it to game week 5 if I can. If I have to go early, then I will. But I don't want to set up for a game week 4 wildcard and then try and carry it later. I'd rather do it the other way around. And Guardiola and Manchester City's fixtures for the first 5 look great. Manchester United also have a really nice 5 opening fixtures apart from the week where they play each other in game week 4. But I've got enough other defenders in my team and a couple of planned transfers we'll talk about which help this team rotate around that week. Calafiori for me at the moment is the Arsenal defender I feel like I'm most likely to go with. The first thing is I need to find an Arsenal defender who I think has the ability to match Gabriel. And I don't think that is Mosquera. I don't think that is any of the centre-backs. It's either Ben White, if Timber is not going to be back for the start of the season, or it's Calafiori. I just think Arteta trusts Calafiori at left-back when he can play the minutes. I think that is his favoured option in that position. And some of the attacking positioning that he takes up, I think the attacking returns and the attacking threat is definitely there. And he has the ability to match Gabriel, but I don't see Mosquera doing that. The other thing about Mosquera is Arsenal are quite heavily linked with Ezri Konsa. Now, I don't expect Konsa to be ready for the start of the season if he does sign for Arsenal, but if I'm trying to save for 5 weeks and Konsa comes in and suddenly Mosquera drops out, that would be a real issue that I don't want to be forced to fix. Now, Calafiori does come with his own risk, right? With Champions League, could Hincapié play there? If they've signed Bruno Guimaraes, could Lewis Skelly go back at left back? All of these things are things I'm keeping my eye on. But at the moment, Calafiori has gone back in after he started. Then it was Mosquera, and now it's Calafiori. On the bench, O'Shea is just in there for that game week 1 bench boost at home to Sunderland. And then I'm going with Miremovic. Again, if you look at the opening 5 fixtures for the season, again, planning for that game week 6 wildcard, Leeds sit right up at the top of the fixture ticker for some of the best opening fixtures. I can pretty much just set and forget him every single week. He's pretty good for DEFCON as well. I would like to save the money on Rodon at 4.5, but he doesn't feel quite as nailed. If they do play a back 4, it could be Biol and Miremovic. I will keep an eye on their preseason because that 0.5 saving plus the 0.5 I've got in the bank could do me Bardiol to O'Reilly as an example. So then we're moving into midfield, and I've decided in order to improve that defense that I've shown you to basically take one of those mid-price mids out of my team to go for a third budget midfielder. So instead of having a Brian Mbeumo or Florian Wirtz or a Morgan Rogers, I've downgraded them to Iliman Ndiaye. Iliman Ndiaye was heavily linked with a move away. He's still slightly linked to a move to Arsenal, but I don't think that will happen. And it looks like Ndiaye is going to be staying at Everton, so he's gone back into my draft. And Ndiaye, Endo Lafite, and Pascal Gross rotate really well with both João Pedro and Calvert-Lewin up front for when each of them has a difficult fixture, apart from a little bit in game week 3, where I'd have to play Iliman Ndiaye at home to Manchester United. But effectively, my thought process was, I've got Brian Mbeumo. Now, I think Brian Mbeumo is a really good pick. And if I could afford one of them, it would be Brian Mbeumo at 8 million. But in my draft previously, I didn't have that money. I actually had Florian Wirtz. But is Florian Wirtz, with the uncertainty around Liverpool, worth 1.5 million more over someone like an Iliman Ndiaye or an Enzo Lafite or Pascal Gross? Wirtz's open play threat is great, don't get me wrong, but he's not playing 90 every week. He's not on penalties. He's not on set pieces, apart from maybe the odd corner he takes. So you're relying on that flashy open play threat. Whereas when you look at someone like Ndiaye, Enzo Lafite, Pascal Gross, they get a little bit of DEFCON between them, which is more than Wirtz gets. They are cheaper than all of them, and it allows me to go from effectively a 4 million defender up to Vardiol, which is a massive upgrade. They're on penalties, all 3 of them. And there is a share of set pieces, particularly Enzo Lafite and Pascal Gross. So I'm not certain that Wirtz is worth the money. I like Brian Mbeumo's opening 2 fixtures. I would like to be able to afford him. And if I wasn't bench boosting early on, that's probably what I would do. I would downgrade the bench. I don't need it to be as strong. And I would probably go and put Brian Mbeumo in. But I think for the early bench boost and for the first 5 weeks, I like this squad structure. And I think some of those 6 million 5.5 million mids look really strong. Elsewhere in my midfield, I've got Dominic Szoboszlai. I'm slightly concerned about his positioning during pre-season, and if Liverpool don't have a right back going into the start of the season, Bradley's not available, Frimpong might have picked up another injury. Could we see Szoboszlai back at right back? I don't expect so, but even without that, he is playing quite deep. He's playing that Alex Scott of Bournemouth role from last season. So I am keeping an eye on that, but I do like his set pieces. I don't think he's on penalties, but even if Isak can only play 70, which it looks like he can at the moment, then Szoboszlai still gets penalties for the last 20, 25 minutes of a game, which is still a little bit of a boost to his appeal. He is great from dead ball situations, and he is great shooting from distance. He just ticks a lot of boxes, and I don't think we can underestimate the impact of certain players having played 90 and had a full preseason. There are a lot of players coming back late that we don't know how ready they'll be for the start of the season, and Szoboszlai is not one of those. Then we're going with Bruno Fernandes. He's in all of my drafts. If I'm not captaining in game week 1, I could do Bruno down to Mbeumo, but I don't think I want to do that early on. I think I plan on starting with Bruno and Erling Haaland for the start of the season. Pascal Gross, the only concern with Brighton is their European qualifier game on the Thursday night before game week 1. Will they all definitely be ready for the match on Sunday? And will their fitness be good enough? And will they play enough minutes? That is slightly putting me off, but I think that I've gone with Verbruggen and Gross, two of their most nailed players at the moment. So then up front, it stayed the same. It's João Pedro, it's Calvert-Lewin, it's Haaland. Again, if you look over the first 5 weeks, which I will bang on about a little bit with this draft, because that is the time period that I'm planning for at the moment, João Pedro, Calvert-Lewin and Haaland all have a pretty good run of fixtures. Apart from Haaland playing Manchester United, maybe João Pedro playing Arsenal, you can start all three of these in pretty much every single game for the start of the season. I like their prices. I like what they offer. And I think they've looked pretty good in pre-season, although Chelsea may be a little bit mixed. So that is the way that my current draft is looking for Bench Boost 1. If I was to change it to Bench Boost 2, effectively the players on the bench would just change slightly. So I would use that 0.5 million I've got in the bank to effectively do Gross up to Kluivert. Gross in game week 2 has Chelsea away, whereas Kluivert has Everton at home in game week 2, along with Petrovic. Maramovic stays, and then we change the 4 million option from O'Shea to Thomas. I don't love this option quite as much in terms of how it plays forward. In game week 3, 4 and 5, it feels a little bit weaker, but the bench boost in game week 2 is slightly stronger than it is maybe in game week 1 with the squad that I've got. But I think because of the way it plans forward, a game week 1 bench boost is the most likely over game week 2 at the moment. Now, we're all here because we love FPL, but you are loving club game nearly as much as I am. Since I launched my league, almost 4,000 of you have joined my league ahead of the new season. Now, my lineup is looking pretty good. I've packed some nice players over the past couple of weeks since we last spoke about my lineup. It's looking pretty strong. Let's see who I'm going to get. So every single day, a couple of times a day, you get given a random player. And if you like that player, you're able to add them into your lineup. So let's see who I'm going to get. Oh, we're up to rare. Midfielder. I could do with some midfielders, actually. I don't... Oh, at City. Oh, Reinders. Now, he's an interesting one. He might be going to Nottingham Forest. He's been linked with them. I'm going to reject him as I don't think he's going to fit into my team just yet. Now, you'll also see that I'm slightly over the salary cap. Over the course of the season, you get to upgrade different parts of your squad so you can afford better players. You can get better players in the pack. And I am actually in the game. You can see my face there. I am upgrading my salary cap as we speak. Almost 4,000 of you are in my league ahead of the new season. Make sure you are joining that. We'll leave a link in the description to sign up if you're not playing. And once you are playing, make sure you're in my league ahead of the new club season. So as we're getting closer to the start of the season and I'm getting closer to my final draft, I think now, of course, things can massively change between now and game week 1, but this is probably the most comfortable I've felt with a draft. I just want to show you what it looks like for those 5 weeks, some potential transfers I'm thinking about over those first 5 weeks before potentially wildcarding in that big international break. So bench boost game week 1 would look like this. Going into game week 2, again, it looks pretty strong if I just optimize the lineup to show you what it would look like. Gvardiol, you've got Maramovic, I've got Harry Maguire. I would also play Calafiori probably over Pascal Gross, who goes away to Chelsea. a 4-3-3, Bruno Fernandes, Szoboszlai, Enzo Laffi, João Pedro, Calvert-Lewin, Haaland, I think it looks pretty strong. Going into game week 3, now I've got Iliman and Dye or João Pedro to start, but I've got Maguire against Everton, Vardiol, Verbruggen or Kinski in goal, Calafiori. Again, pretty nice fixtures across the board, apart from Ndai or João Pedro, probably Ndai against Man United. He is on penalties, so I probably would go with him. A slight clash there with Ndai and Maguire, but it's not the end of the world. Going into game week 4, again, I would be able to rotate my team a little bit if I optimize my lineup. João Pedro comes back in. Enzo Laffi would probably be benched when I'd play Iliman and Dye, and I'd have a question to make around Cole Palmer. So if Palmer doesn't look great, then I make maybe just a defensive transfer. I sell Maguire in order to give myself a better defense, or I just play Vardiol, Calafiori, Miremovic. It looks pretty solid. I might do Bruno to Palmer for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, Palmer has Hull at home, Brentford away, whereas Bruno Fernandes has Manchester City and Fulham away. Now, if I did that, I actually would have money to do something like O'Shea up to another Arsenal defender or a Virgil van Dijk for Fulham and Bournemouth. That is also something I'm considering to play a back for and something like that. So in game week 4, I will have a decision to make about Chelsea in general. That's why I want to start with João Pedro. I know the first 3 are a little bit more difficult, but it would set me up better for game week 4 not to be forced to make a transfer to buy him or play a chip in order to buy him. And then in game week 5, again, it looks pretty strong. Whether I go out and buy Virgil van Dijk and Cole Palmer or not, I can play Harry Maguire over Enzo Laffi. I've got Calafiori there. Again, I can play if I don't buy Van Dijk. I've got a pretty robust squad for the first 5 weeks. It doesn't actually look too bad in game week 6. If I decide to get to this point and not play my wild card, I will have 3 transfers in the bank and a team that actually looks pretty good on paper. Maybe I would be forced to play it if I've sold Bruno for Palmer, but there are a lot of things that actually could mean I could save my wild card later. So this draft is set up for a wild card 6 bench boost 1. It isn't sacrificing much if I decide to wildcard early in game week 4. I still think I'm maximizing the first 3 fixtures pretty well, apart from maybe Brian and Burma in my lineup, but also gives me the flexibility to delay the wildcard later if I want to without sacrificing too much that way as well. So it feels like quite a nice middle ground without sacrificing too much. But that is where we are. As I said at the beginning of the video, there will not be another draft video from me until we get to the preseason last friendlies next weekend. So we will be back then to talk about what I've learned and where my draft is. But I feel like an early bench boost and a middle to early wildcard is what I'm planning, with a bit of flexibility to still help me target early on, but have flexibility going forward if I want it. That is all. That is my latest draft. Let me know whether you like it. Let me know whether you hate it. Let me know whether you agree with the early bench boost. Let me know whether you agree with the lots of cheap midfielder route that I'm potentially going down, or not having the route to the likes of Semenyo or Brian and Burmo feels like a bit of an issue. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Drop a like if you've enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. If you want more to do over preseason, make sure you're downloading Club with the link in the description, and I'll be back again very soon.